Star Bowling with the top bowling stars of America. Brought to you by Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Top Star Bowling from the Hoffman Lanes here at Hoffman Estates, Illinois. I'm Jack Buck, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you today the two men participating on the show as they go for part of the $40,000 in prize money that is involved. And here today, it's $1,000 to the winner, $500 to the loser, plus a very attractive LaSalle wristwatch for each of the men. We have a King of the Hill format here, and the fellow who's currently holding forth defeated Carl Richard in order to remain on the show. He's from San Jose, California. Dick Agee. Dick, good to see you.
Good to see you, Jack.
That was Carl Richard you knocked off, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. He shot real bad, 524. He'd been bowling real well, and then he just got into one of those slumps.
But things get tougher and tougher as the weeks go along, and you have quite an opponent today.
Yes, I have. He's a good boy.
A lot I can say about him, too, in the introduction. He's a former Masters champion. Also had the part of the doubles champion title with Don Carter. One of the great team bowlers in the country, Mr. Tom Hennessy from St. Louis. Tom, good to see you.
Nice
in addition to all of that, Tom's a very bashful fellow. Tom, how have you been?
Fine, Jack.
I hate to ask you any questions. We'll never get around to the bowling.
Well, thanks. I'm not going to do much talking today.
Have you found the lanes pretty much to your liking?
Well, I'll be able to answer that for you in a little while, Jack.
Won't take long to learn, will it?
Right.
Tom, the very best to you.
Thank you.
Good luck to you and to you, Dick Agee. And folks, you all set for Top Star Bowling? Ready to go. It's a three-game match, total pins count. Tom Hennessy won the toss, so Dick Agee is leading off on lane 29. He leaves at 4-7 as he was in there a bit high with his first pitch of the session. Dick Agee from San Jose, California. He won the Las Vegas Open in 1962, and a peculiar thing, his opponent, Tom Hennessy, won that same Open in 1961. Going for the 4-7, looking for his first mark, and he gets it. Now Tom Hennessy will be up on 30. Tom, as you well know, has a list of honors. Let's see how the St. Louisan starts here, and he's there. With me at the microphone is a member of the Brunswick advisory staff and a very fine bowler in his own right, Jerome Whitey Harris. Whitey is acting as statistician and an occasional comment that will help you enjoy things even more as he interprets the activities. Hennessy looking for the double to get out in front in the match. Looking for the double, and the 8-10 looks him right in the eye. I was about to say, Whitey, as I saw that ball heading for the pocket, thinking perhaps he'd have the double, that it doesn't take these professional bowlers very long to find that proper track on the lanes, because Tom Hennessy's first pitch was very comparable to the line that was used by Carl Richard and by Dick Hoover, who was so successful here on the show. We'll get your comment in a moment on that. Tom covers the 8-pin, and so he opens in the second frame, giving him 19 in the first frame with a split in the second. Now Dick Agee, working on a spare, comes up in the second frame. Big high backswing and a great big strike. 20 in the first frame and a strike, and Dick Agee gains the advantage. This tournament, by the way, in this series of shows, is sanctioned by the ABC. The lanes have been certified by the American Bowling Congress. And I'll tell you something about these lanes. They're in great shape, but you have to bowl and bear down and concentrate. Avoid the mistakes if you want to score. Looks like Dick Agee might be trouble today for Tom Hennessy. A spare and then a double. Dick is a very interesting bowler to watch with the big, high backswing that he employs. Tom Hennessy has changed his style a couple of times over the years. He opened in the last frame, and he didn't get to the head pin this time. The 7-pin finally did drop for him. He leads the 1-2-8. Tom didn't get up there. Started with a strike, then a split, and now the 1-2-8.
Jack, it's interesting to note Tom on the approach. Some years ago, he used to have a rocking motion. Now, to trigger his start to the foul line, he pushes the ball a little bit. You can just see how he's back and forth.
Let's see if he covers all three of these pins. He does. So he gets back on the mark. Strike, split, spare for Tom Hennessy. His opponent, Dick Agee, has a double going for him. Tom here won the Masters in 1958. He was doubles champion with Darren Carter in 58 and 59. Member of the team match game champions in 57, 58, 59, and 60. There's his strike. Won the Oklahoma City Open in 1962, the Montreal Open. He's a big man down south, won the Southern Match Game Championship in 57, 58, and 59. Member of the All-American team quite often. On the head pin, and he avoids the split, gets off the string of strikes. Agee had been working on a double. It gives him a possible 68 through the third frame and a 20-pin lead over Tom Hennessy. For the second time today, Dick Agee is shooting that 4-7. Agee bowled rather well to defeat Carl Richard. But for the most part, it was a matter of Carl Richard being unable to maintain the pace that he had set to stay around here for a few weeks. Agee trying to get back on a strike. He was really rooting for that ball to come over for him. So that was his third strike of the game. And he has had one double. Tom Hennessy tries to get a double right here and cut into that 20-pin lead that Dick Agee has early in the match. Remember here on this lane last time, Hennessy failed to get up to the head pin. And he got there but leaves the 5-7. He got there but not well enough to have that ball drive through and take that 5-pin out. So that's Tom's second split of the game, Whitey.
Yes, from our position here, Jack, it looked like when he, on his pitch there before, remember he left the, it was off the head pin a bit, and this time he let the ball go out a little too far, and that'll result in the 5-7.
Let's see if Tom can convert this 5-7. He's got a crack at it. No. People in the audience moan and groan. So that's Tom's second open of the game. And Agee has 88 through the fourth with a strike up, and Tom Hennessy has 76 through the fifth frame. Tom looking for his third strike. He gets it. He's had both of his splits here early in the game to put him behind Dick Agee, who has put a double together. Agee has increased his lead. He didn't take much time getting started up there. There's his strike. Another double for him, the second double of the game. Dick Agee uses a lot of rhythm, has an extremely high backswing. A little dip at the knees gets him started. There's a lot to learn by watching this fella. Boy, he's really popping them in there. That's a three-bagger for him and 5 strikes out of the 7 frames so far. And did you ever see a more confident bowler, Whitey?
I think he's definitely established his line, as we noted last week, Jack, when he shot a nice score against Carl Richards.
Hennessy looking for a double to try to match him. And he's a bit high. Leaves that 4-7. And you can see, if you watch the line employed, when Tom is outside, he's barely getting to that head pin. Remember the last time he left the 5-pin here on 30. And now when he plays it even more inside, he's a bit too full and leaves a 4-7. So it's a very critical differential in there that Tom is going to have to find in order to match Dick Agee. Hennessy shooting the 4-7, covering it for a spare, getting Tom 96 through the 6 with a spare up. His opponent is working on a 3-bagger. He threw that one out the window. The 1-2-4-8 remains. Tom is usually very consistent. Here, as of late, he's been bowling rather hot and cold on the professional bowling tour. Going for a spare, and he runs past the head pin. And he opens for the 3rd time in this game. And that was in his 8th frame, too. Meanwhile, we have the opposite going on with Dick Agee. Agee is working on 3 in a row. He's had 5 strikes in the game so far. And we almost had the 7-10, but the 7 toppled over.
I think that would have been a difficult one to explain, Jack, with the way that ball drove in there and left the 7-pin standing. But the 7-pin finally toppled.
So that stops his string of strikes. Nonetheless, Dick Agee is in terrific shape, some 52 pins ahead of the match as he shoots this 10-pin. And covers it very nicely. Dick is relatively new to the professional bowling ranks and the top echelon where we now find him. Nonetheless, he's a formidable foe for any who would meet him. 9th frame for Agee. Almost had the 8-10. He leaves the 10-pin once again, giving him 186 through the 8th frame. And the lead over Tom Hennessy of some 65 pins right now. Uh-oh. Well, as far as Tom Hennessy is concerned, that 10-pin takes care of part of that. Dick Agee with one of the few opens that we have seen him have. He got a break getting away from the 8-10 and then blew that 10-pin, so it's not all strikes in this game. 195 through the 9th for Dick Agee. Hennessy opened in his last frame. He crosses over and leaves the 3-10 for his 3rd split of the game.
Looks like Tommy's fallen into that bad habit that a lot of bowlers will get jacked when they start to have to feel out the lane and they start pointing that ball. And the last 3 pitches on this right lane, he's pointed the ball directly at the head pin.
This is the 3rd split that he has shot at. He's trying to take advantage of the open in the 9th frame on the part of Dick Agee, and he's not going to get that 3-pin. That's his 4th open. He opens again in the 9th, and he has only 130 through the 9th, and I have to laugh because I know Tom quite well and see him shaking his head up there. He'd be interesting to talk to, but I don't think he'll talk to him after this game.
You can bet, Jack, that he will make a lot of adjustments for that next game, and he's capable of coming up with a big one.
He's in the roll-off now, needing 3 strikes for 160. And he leaves the 2-4-5-8. Tom is really mumbling to himself.
I think this is the most difficult time for any professional athlete, Jack, when they are in trouble and how they have to work their way out of it.
He's 65 pins down. Could get further behind. He has to pick this and get a 10 count for a 150. Thank you. And he leaves the 5-pin and opens once again. Tom said beautiful as he came back. Or did he say brutal? 139 for Tom Hennessy here in the first game. With 3 splits and 2 misses, 5 opens. 3 strikes. And Agee wants to get into the act right now. He leaves a 6-7. He opened in the 9th frame, to recall, missing a 10-pin, and now comes up with a split here in the 10th frame. Maybe I better talk to Hennessy and find out what in the world's going on at the end of this game. Dick Agee can't get the 6-7. And he finishes with 203. Tom Hennessy, 139. Right here, a message for you. Then we'll come back and meet one of the bowlers here at the Hoffman Lanes. Tom Hennessy, being the fine sport that he is, I knew we could talk to him after the first game to find out what in the world's been going on up here. Tom?
Well, Jack, as you and probably everybody else has seen, in the 2nd frame, I left an 8-10. I thought that ball was pretty fair. Then I think about the 5th frame, I left a 5-7. So that was on the other lane. By that time, I didn't know where I was, and then I turned around and I missed the head pin, missed it again, chopped the bucket, and I wound up with $1.39.
Tom, it's a very critical line that you have to play here, is it not?
The one I'm playing is very critical.
You threw a couple in there. I thought for a while, at least right at the outset, that you were going to follow the successful pattern that had been set here on this pair in the past, but you got away from it. You got to get it back now.
Yeah, actually, Jack, I made 3 mistakes, I think, that game, and those 3 frames I got strikes. I hope I make more mistakes this game.
Those were mistakes, those strikes?
Well, they must have been, because I didn't get any of them together.
Your opponent's hitting them rather well, Tom.
Yes, he's in the pocket. He missed a 10-pin, and he left another 10-pin, I think, about the 8th frame. He's throwing the ball very good. He's throwing about as good as I'm throwing it bad.
But this game is far from over, this match.
Well, we got 2 more games, haven't we?
Let's watch and see what happens.
All right.
Tom, good luck to you as we
Thank
go
you.
along. And we're all set for more Top Star Bowling. Tom Hennessy trying to get a start now on 29 here in the 2nd game. He's down by 64 pins in the match. Is that it? There it is. And the smiling Irishman had something to say when he turned around. Dick Agee got a double in the first game along with a 3-bagger for a total of 5 strikes. He had 5, but he put them together at 2 different occasions. And he's there. So they each start with a strike. In fact, Hennessy can consider himself a bit fortunate that he's down only by 64 because Dick Agee left that 10-pin in the 9th frame. And these professional bowlers seldom do that. Not even regarding that split in the 10th frame. Is this a double for him? No, he didn't get up there. And the 7-pin failed to drop. It's the 1, 2, 7, 8. This can be a pretty tough one to get to. He was working on a strike. There it is. He barely did get that 7-pin.
My expert opinion at particular time, I don't think the ball took out the 7-pin, but it was the 8-pin that came back in. Here's Tom Hennessy looking for a double, trying to chop into that lead that Dick Agee enjoys right at this point. Is it there? And, oh, did you see those 2 pins collide just as the one was heading for that 7-pin? So Tom didn't get the break. The best he can do is match his opponent right here. I'm sure that most everyone right at this point, except the extremely devoted Dick Agee fans, are rooting for Tom Hennessy to get hot a little bit and make it a close contest here. There's the 7-pin. You know, much in contrast to what he has started out with here, Tom is the holder of the record televised bowling series. He bowled 846 one particular TV endeavor. There's Tom in the pocket again. And
so Tom has strike, spare, strike. The winner here gets $1,000, the loser $500. They each get the very attractive LaSalle wristwatch for men and women of action. And the action is picking up right here. Agee was a little high, but he got some terrific action over there to get his strike. So they each have strike, spare, strike. Dick Agee from San Jose, California. Member of the Brunswick Advisory Staff of Champions. His highest series in sanctioned play, 772. Did not have any trouble throwing strikes. That's his third one in this game. He had 5 in the first game. Tom Hennessy had 3. He's looking for the double to match his opponent. And he gets tapped at this time. 6-pin wraps around the 10. He's doing some things here that really make you talk to yourself. He seemed to be right in the pocket with that one. And he needed the double to match his opponent. Now he drops further behind. And he started this game 64 pins off the pace. Shooting the 10-pin. And he covers. First game, Tom Hennessy had 3 splits and 2 misses.
I think the marvelous sport of bowling was exemplified, Jack, when you went out there and talked to Tom. You can't do this in any other sport.
Oh, no. You talk to a football player just dropped a pass in the end zone, or a ball player who popped out with a bases loaded. Are you sure it'll be an interesting conversation? Hennessy has struck 3 times on 29 over there.
Tommy predicted, Jack, that he actually had that left lane, and he really did, except for the few bad in the end of the game there, because he at 8-10, and he shouldn't have altered anything on his pitch there.
Dick Agee looking for 3 in a row. Yeah, he's in there again. So 4 out of his 5 frames have been strikes. Dick Agee has 40 through the second frame, working on a 3-bagger. Tom Hennessy has 80 through the 4th with a strike up. Dick Agee is hot. He's looking for his 4th in a row. Looking for his 5th strike of the game. He's high, gets away, leaves a 4-7. That 10-pin, it appeared to me, was the last pin to drop there, Whitey. He's been able to avoid a couple of splits here in the match, and it's made a difference.
He seems his ball has more of a spinning action. I don't know if he'll have to watch sometime and see if he goes over the top of it a little bit.
He covers the 4-7. 118 through the 5th with a spare up for Dick Agee, and Tom Hennessy probably very happy to see Dick get off that string of strikes. Tom can get a double right here. Tom down by quite a bit and getting further behind by the frame here in the second game. Here's the one that's bothered him. He crossed it over. Almost looked like he was going for that Brooklyn. Leaves the 6-10, failed to get the double. So he's hit the 1 lane. He's had 3 strikes on 29 and has had no strikes on 30.
The problem that Tom is going through, Jack, now, he has to have such a fine line on that lane, and any little movement there, why, the ball will run to the left.
He's shooting the 6-10, and he covers both of them. He's really bearing down on those spares, you can tell. So it's been strike, spare, strike, spare, strike, spare for Tom so far here in the second game. He's another 18 pins off the pace in this game. 72 pins behind Dick Agee at this point. 7th frame for Hennessy. And the 7-pin stands for him, giving him 119 through the 6th.
Would have been pretty good if we could have got a Dutch 200 by Tom Hennessy. We were on our way there for a while.
Mm-hmm. This apparent spare takes care of that. And there is his spare in the seventh frame for Tom Hennessy. Dick Agee has 118 through the fifth with a spare up. Tom Hennessy 119 through the sixth with a spare up. At this point in the match, Dick Agee, who is rolling in the seventh frame, has opened a lead of 82 pins over Tom Hennessy, and he's working on a spare. And he leaves the 5-pin. The ball was a very thin hit, failed to drive through and take that 5. He's had 4 strikes in this game. Agee had 5 strikes in the first game. Tom Hennessy 3 in each game so far. And that 5-pin. And you'll notice how Agee watched that ball all the way down the lane. He'll use that information when he's next up on 30 throwing his strike ball. So they each have a spare in the 7th. Agee has gained 18 pins in this game and leads by 82. We get around to the 8th frame here in the second game. Agee, you'll note, wears that Don Carter glove. There's his strike. As does Tom Hennessy. When Don Carter was on the show, we had an opportunity to talk about it. The main thing about that club, evidently, is the more relaxed grip that it gives you. 8th frame for Hennessy. Whoops. And the 4-6. Thought the 6 was going to drop. That's his first split in this game. He had 3 splits in the first game, and nothing is going right for Tom.
Jack, there would have been a good example of the pin is still rocking, and what would happen if the automatic hit that pin? Well, the pin would have to be respotted.
Tom going for the 4. You know, when you stop to consider all of those things, Whitey, things like the ball return and the cluster ball return that we have here and the automatics and all the equipment that is being used here in this Brunswick house, it's fantastic, the strides that bowling has made over the past few years. Here's Hennessy on 29. That's his lane over there. There's his strike in the 9th frame, giving him 1 to work on. And he could conceivably go on to a 206 game right here. Dick Agee has a strike working in the 8th, and he can add to his lead. A little bit high, and he leaves that 4-pin. Agee, who was born in Iowa, lives in San Jose, California. More and more we find a lot of fine bowlers coming from the West Coast and the Southwest, Dallas and Houston. Some of the other bowlers are going to be appearing here in the near future on the series. Thurm Gibson will be next. He'll take on the winner of this particular match, Harry Smith, Glenn Allison, Pete Carter, Bob Strampy. There's the 4-pin. We'll also be seeing Billy Golombiewski, Joe Joseph, Bill Lillard, Ray Bluth, and a very fine ladies match. Another ladies match should be coming your way. Each of the participants on the show receives that LaSalle wristwatch, a very attractive wristwatch. Another 5-pin. So, in the roll-off, Dick Agee can spare and come up with a 10 count for 216. Tom Hennessy will have to go all the way for 206. There's the spare for Agee. There's 196 through the 9th frame with a spare in the 10th. There's the strike by Dick Agee to finish with 216. So in this game, he had 6 strikes, 5 in the first game. Tom Hennessy has had 4 strikes here. He has not had a double in the match so far. Boy, he's really moved way inside on this lane. And he gets a stop. There's his first double. Did you notice his starting position, Whitey? He was way in.
Jack, he was at least 5 boards to the left of the area where he had been standing.
He just threw right at that pocket that time. And he carried. Here's a big one for him. He could still be within hailing distance when that third game starts. And another one. I guess he's saying to himself, well, I stayed out there long enough and failed to do it.
Took that Brunswick score, King, a long time to drop. But, Jack, if the next time when he's up here, if you'll note where he's standing, he's actually standing where you would shoot for the 10-pin.
He's way over. He's almost to the ball return. This one is out, coming up, and he gets an 8 count on his final ball. So Tom made a little run for it, and a very sly grin creeps across his face. And for Dick Agee in the second game, 216 for 419. Tom Hennessy, 204 for a 343 total. We'll be back in just a moment to visit with Dick Agee. There's a 76-pin difference in the match as the third game is about to get underway. We're talking now with Dick Agee. Dick, you had 5 strikes and then 6. You've had a rather consistent game going for you.
Yes, I have. I'm having a little better time with lane 30 this time. I was having a tough time with it in the first match against Richard. Now it's seemed to come around. Seemed to get the ball into the pocket better.
Dick, the big impression that I've had watching you is the confidence that you have had and your approach going up there and turning that ball over quite freely. And I suppose you have to have that approach to the game if you're going to be hitting them.
Yes, you do, Jack. You have to keep loose under pressure.
I noticed that Tom Hennessy in the last few deliveries on the lane here on the right, lane 30, moved way inside. He was almost starting on top of the ball return.
Yes, he was struggling outside, and I guess he decided, in desperation, I might as well move in, and he did. And
that's the mark of a good bowler, though, Dick.
Yes, it is. Yes, it takes a lot of guts to do that, too.
Well, a lot of bowlers would just continue along making the same mistakes and never do anything about it.
That's right. Tom saw that his ball was running into the pocket pretty good, so he moved inside.
I suppose you feel fortunate with a 76-pin lead at this point.
Yes, I do, but
not safe.
Not safe.
Fortunate, but not safe. Okay, Dick, thank you. You folks all set for the third game here on Top Star Bowling? It's 419 to 343 as we get underway once again. If Dick Agee were able to pop one right here as the third game gets started. And he is. That 8-pin tumbling off. Sort of a tough psychological blow to Tom Hennessy, who spurted toward the end of the second game. Now the best Tom can do is to match him with a strike. Tom 76 pins behind. And no 10-pin. No 10-pin, a pretty good hit. We've had some fine scores on these lanes, and you have been able to witness the fact that they are not primed for particularly high scoring. You have to earn every pin that you get, and that's the way it should be. Dick Hoover had a 681. Carl Richard a 679. Hoover came back with a 663, a 660 for Richard. Then Blakesley 653 and lost. There's the spare for Hennessy. Tom spares to start the third and final game. It's a shame that Tom got such a bad start because you'd ordinarily expect him to be able to match Agee's 203 and 216. And then we'd really have a battle on our hands right here in the third and final game of the match. Instead, we are watching an uphill battle and see if Tom can do it. Now he crosses over and he leaves the 6-pin. So Tom has 19 in the first frame.
Jack, Tom has been named to the Bowlers Journal All-American team 4 times, and this brings about the fact that in our audience today is Jim Fitzgerald, the bowling editor of the Chicago Tribune.
Tom Hennessy shooting the 6-pin and stirring for the second time. doing a lot of fishing out there, and just can't get in the groove. Dick Agee has had no problems. Looking for a double to start this game. He really got that one out and snapped it. He got tapped. That 6-pin jumped right over that 10. He's really balling in very free and easy fashion out there.
I think Dick is reversing the Horace Greeley theory of go west, young man. He's come east, and I think he's going to stay a long time.
All right, this is his second effort on Top Star Bowling. Trying to win his second $1,000 top prize, along with the LaSalle watch. There's his 10-pin. So a strike and a spare for Dick. The most that anyone has been able to win on this particular show is 3 times. Don Ellis with 3 wins. Dick Hoover with 3 wins. Don Carter lasted for only 1 session. Agee in there. Strike, spare, strike. Hoffman Lanes, by the way, are located in Hoffman Estates, Illinois. Hennessy looking for his first strike of the game. He was way out. Never did come up. Gets an 8 count as he worked on the spare. Leaves the 1-2. Brunswick pin finder, by the way, shows us here that the 1-2 remains. And that'll remain on until after the bowler has rolled his second ball. This hold feature was developed by Brunswick to provide bowlers with another score-boosting extra. It avoids a lot of trouble on the part of some bowlers. To the point where sleepers are almost a thing of the past. There's 3 spares in a row for Tom. Tom Hennessy in the 4th frame now. Got that one out there. And he leaves the 4-7. Of course, that sleeper we were talking about, it would be, what, the 8-pin on a 1-2-8 setup? What would some of the others be, Woody?
Well, anytime you have a pin behind there, Jack, I guess most of the time the 8-pin or even the 9-pin are the pins that are behind there.
Hennessy going for his 4th spare in a row. Hey. Very thin hit, pushed that 4 right out, and Tom opens for the first time in this game. Dick Agee working on a strike.
This can happen, Jack, when your ball is has a tendency to be grabbing, not good enough to go to the left, and that looks like what happened to Tom's ball.
Now, Agee failed to quite get up there, and he leaves the 2-pin with a thin hit. Working on a strike, however. Thurm Gibson will be the opponent for the winner of this match. What about Thurm, Whitey?
Well, Thurm is one of the outstanding professional bowlers, and he's always good for a good show, and he definitely throws a strike ball.
Dick Agee cover. What do you mean by that, Whitey? Throws a strike ball. They all try to.
I know they all try to, Jack, but some have a more effective ball for strike. You would classify like Carter, definitely, because whoever wins definitely must throw more strikes.
Mm-hmm. So it should be interesting to watch Thurm Gibson here next week. Agee in his 5th frame now, working on a spare. Carries. That's his 3rd strike of the game. To reiterate, he had 5 strikes in the first, 6 in the second game. Now he's had 3. All 3 on the same lane, by the way. Well, look how far inside that Hennessy is. Walking straight up, pitching right out, and that new angle didn't work either. 2-4-5-8.
Jack, a little Tommy's background. Actually, here's a man that was on the famous St. Louis team that shot 38-58, and in that particular match, why Tommy came through in the clutch with a 300 game. So that's pretty good shooting.
Mm-hmm. We hope that folks aren't gaining their first impression of Tom Hennessy here, because he hasn't done himself justice. He covers nicely. So Tom has 64 through the 4th with a spare up, and Dick Agee has 80 through the 4th, and he's working on a strike. Hennessy looking for his first strike. Gets it. Agee looking for a double to add to his substantial lead. And he carries. He had a couple of hits right in that same spot. They looked like they're a little too full, but they carry for him. Really turning that ball over. And he gets his first double. He gets his fourth strike.
The way Dick is bowling, and with his first series there, Jack, against Carl Richards, he's going to maintain his 210 average if he continues right now.
Defeated Carl Richard with a 635 series. Just barely did get to the head pin with a very thin hit. Leaves the 2-4-5. He had been working on a double. Agee in the 7th frame, and it appears that it's much too late for Tom Hennessy. However, stranger things have happened when one bowler puts together a couple of opens and the other strikes out. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen here because Tom Hennessy is still trying to find the range. 127 through the 6th with a spare up for Dick Agee. Tom Hennessy looking for his first double of this game. And strike, there's a double. So he whittles into that lead somewhat. The lead was almost 100 pins as Tom came up to throw this time. And about 89 pins right now. 234 if Tom goes all the way in this game. He's in the 8th frame now. There he is. At least he's showing you that he can throw strikes. 3-bagger for Tom. Now let's see how Dick Agee answers that minor challenge of the moment. Can't answer it any better than that. That's his 5th strike. Gives him 147 through the 7th with a strike.
I think you hit it on the head, Jack, when you were talking to Dick, that definitely he has built up his confidence in just the manner of the way he's freewheeling here.
Right, he's up there stroking, and I know at the moment he's not concerned about Tom Hennessy. He's just bearing down on his own game, and here in the 9th frame, he's looking for a double. There he is. Is he on top of that ball a little bit, Whitey?
Yes, and I think because that left lane being an inside lane, it's helping him. Because his ball looks like it starts to skid, and he's getting that there swishing hit.
That's what oftentimes I've been surprised that he's been carrying that 5-pin, because the ball sometimes seems to be skidding for him, but he's driving through there, and now Hennessy working on a 3-bagger with another thin hit, leaves the 2-4-5. Left the 2-4-5 back in the 5th frame. Once again, it was on lane 30, which has bothered him. I wonder if Tom would like to take that lane with him when he leaves. Stay warm in the wintertime with a bonfire. And he covers for his spare in the 9th frame, giving Tom 161 through the 8th with a spare up.
Jack, would it be appropriate to say that both of these boys, having won a Las Vegas opening, are they battling for the chips now?
Yeah, the chips are down. Battling for $1,000 first prize here today. Hennessy in the 10th frame with a strike. 181 through the 9th. 211 if he strikes out here. Had 204 in the second game and a disastrous 139 to start with. There's another. Well, it took him to the 6th frame to get his first strike of the game. Now he has 5 strikes. Needs one more to match his 6 strikes in the second game. Hennessy leaves his 7-10 as his final effort. He's still able to grin, still able to laugh, and he finishes 209. 209 and 552. Dick Agee working on the double. On the nose, leaves the 610. So he cannot attain the 237 that he had going for him. Tom Hennessy, 139 and 204, 209, 552. Dick Agee trying to spare her in the 10th, and he does so. 215 with a 10 count if he can hit it. He rolled 635 to defeat Carl Richard. He would have 634 with a 10 count here. But he's not going to get a 10 count. Carl finishes. Dick finishes with 211 and 630. So Dick Agee wins it, earns the right to take on Thurm Gibson. 630 for Dick Agee, 552 for Tom Hennessy. When we come back, we'll be awarding the prizes and visiting briefly with the bowlers. It's time to meet the bowlers and award the prizes as Dick Agee has defeated Tom Hennessy 630 to 552. Let's first of all say hello to the loser of the match, fellow we always enjoy watching no matter, Mr. Tom Hennessy. Tom?
What are you putting that in front of me for? I don't have very much to say, Jack.
I thought not, but nonetheless, Tom, a very attractive LaSalle wristwatch for you.
Thank you, Jack.
Along with the check for $500.
Thank
Tom,
you.
you did come back, and you hit those last couple of games rather well, and I suppose you'd look back to the your 8th, 9th, and 10th frames in that first game. That's what killed you, really.
Yeah, actually, Jack, in a 3-game match like this, if you get started a little bad and you're still fishing, you know, you don't have a line, and then your opponent starts off, and he seems to be stroking the ball pretty good on both lanes, it's pretty hard to catch anybody. However, I don't say I would have caught him if we'd had any more games, but I was getting a little closer to him. I mean, he wasn't beating me as bad the last 2. So, but I think today, Jack, I should have done the announcing, and you should have done the bowling for me, because you might have confused him so bad he wouldn't have been able to shoot anything.
You're getting on me now, huh?
No, I got to get on somebody.
Well,
Joe Norris is sitting there, and I can't get on him. He's been on me already.
Tom, as they say around the corner, you had a nice little series.
Little one, yeah.
Tom, you're always fun to be with and always good to watch. And I know that we learned a lot watching you adjusting and so forth, and you did come back. And the one thing the people learned, I know, is that you don't give up no matter what the score of a bowling match.
Thank you, Jack.
Tom, the very best to you.
Thank you.
Tom Hennessy, folks. Now let's say hello to the winner for the 2nd week in a row, Mr. Dick Agee, who showed you some fine bowling. Dick, congratulations.
Thank you, Jack.
The watch for you, the LaSalle wristwatch, that's your 2nd one.
Right.
And another $1,000 to spend on the West Coast as you see fit.
Thank you, Jack.
You're the picture of consistency. You were in the 630s when you defeated Carl Richard, and you're back here again with a 630.
Well, I hope I can keep doing it. In a lot of cases, 630 is not enough, though.
Thurm Gibson will be your next opponent. I know that you enjoyed being with Tom Hennessy and enjoyed beating him, too.
Yes. Oh, always.
Dick, we'll be seeing you next week.
All right. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you. Dick Agee. Okay, now, that'll do it for this show, and don't forget to be with us next week when, once again, from the Hoffman Lanes, we'll be coming your way with Top Star Bowling. And now, Jack Buck says thanks for your time this time. Till next time, so long. Top Star Bowling has been presented by LaSalle, the Precision Jeweled Watch. Bowling equipment by Brunswick, the #1 name in bowling. Top Star Bowling is sanctioned by the American Bowling Congress.